you can sell weed directly from your booth to your fans, and then you'll get the direct ROI there. And so that's like the big change.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Dime. I'm Brian Fields, and with me, as always, is Kellen Finney. And this week, we've got a very special guest, Rama Mayo, co-founder of Hall of Flowers. Rama, thanks for taking the time. How are you doing today?
I'm excellent, man. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. Kellen, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Really excited to talk to Rama. Really excited to dive into a really heavy West Coast event with Hall of Flowers and kind of learn about all there is to learn about that. How are you doing, Brian?
Yeah, I'm stoked to learn about kind of the behind the scenes in the Hall of Flowers. I think Hall of Flowers is commonly known as one of the best premier events in the industry, but I think there's some secrets behind the scenes that Rama's going to spill and let us know kind of what goes in the inner workings. But I guess before we get started and talk about those fun topics, Rama, let's put East Coast, West Coast aside. If the entire United States had a beautiful, beautiful weather, they're all the same weather, did you have a preference where you'd want to live?
Got it. It's a trick question here. If the weather was perfect, where would you live? I mean, I think the majority of my life I would have answered, which is what you're going to want to hear, maybe like New York, East Coast, If I can just say East Coast or West Coast, that's such a big, broad thing too, right? You know what I mean? Because like I love Cape Cod. We do it all the time. We also do beach in New Hampshire all the time. We do the Hamptons a little bit. So like if you're like, yeah, if the weather's perfect, sure, I guess we'll say East Coast, I guess. But right now, though, I'll tell you that I'm living up in Ventura, California now, just northwest of Boston, northwest of LA, and the beach is so phenomenal that the beach is better than the beach on the East Coast. Like the sand is better, the water, like everything about it is better. But yeah, I mean, I love Boston where I'm from, but I don't miss it, kind of, right? But when I think about the stuff I don't like, it's what you mentioned. It's the fucking freezing cold or the boiling, drippy hot. You know what I mean? So
I love it. And just to be clear, just between the three of us, that second part, we're just going to cut it out. So it's only East Coast and everyone knows where the true life is. So we're good with that. But yeah. So just keeping it going. Let's talk about the Hall of Flowers. For those that are unfamiliar about it, can you give us like a 360 overall view about what the event is? And then I guess take us through the origin. What sparked the idea of the Hall of Flowers?
Yeah. Okay. So Hall of Flowers, up until basically the show we have coming up in September, has been like a B2B trade show for cannabis. So brands and buyers coming together, and the brands showcase their products. The buyers come around and kind of shop, place wholesale orders, and for product that gets delivered later. And the trade shows are in every industry on the planet, right? So I used to do a little mini fashion trade show in New York and Las Vegas called United. And I have some friends from that industry that did much, much, much bigger shows that I went to and had them partner with me for Hall of Flowers. So I have a partner named Aaron Levant. Aaron did a trade show called Agenda Trade Show, which was like the number one streetwear skateboarding kind of show in the world. And then currently Aaron does Complex Con and owns Complex Media. And then his old partner and friend, Danny Diamond, and Danny did Liberty and Capsule and Project trade shows. So essentially it's me who did like mini little fashion trade show, but I do all the weed stuff, partner with two big trade show, fucking pioneers. And I was begging Aaron for years to start the show, and he brought in Danny, and essentially that was 6 years ago. So it's like, the best of the trade show operators and myself that kind of speaks weed, if you will.
So in those early days when you're begging them to start, it had to be a couple other layers where had you spoken to brands and let them know like, hey, would this be helpful for you? Obviously, there has to be kind of take us through like that conversation, and then how that first ask is to a brand or someone to tell them, hey, trust me with your time and your money, come to this show the first time ever.
Well, I mean, candidly, I was laughed out of the room by a lot of people. I went to some big companies, I don't know if I want to mention them even by name, but big, huge companies in the space. And they literally thought I was an idiot. They were like, no one's ever going to go to trade shows to buy weed. and we're not inventing anything here. This exists in every industry, whatever, like, the bananas have a trade show or whatever the hell. So it was something that was very clear to me because I was working at the time. We started Green Street 13 years ago or something, and we were doing G-Pen, back then, the vaporizer, and then we started doing a bunch of other brands, and I've really been doing like brand work for cannabis companies for the last 13 years. And halfway through that, I was like, man, we need a show that is like the other shows, because we were doing, fashion and art and music, and all those industries have these gigantic shows that you go to and you meet with and network and blah, 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 So, it was super clear to me. And yeah, people thought I was crazy. People thought it was never going to work, a lot of people.
So you get the show together, the first year is approaching. Mm-hmm. What are your feelings? Do you think that, hey, a bunch of people are definitely going to show up? Like, talk us through like that first year, kind of what your expectations were and how it kind of performed.
Yeah, the first year was like, it was incredible. I mean, my partner, Danny, honestly is like such a phenomenal trade show producer. Like, I could never do what he does. It's such hard work making these things like not just look beautiful, but work properly. He talks about the flow of the show. Like every second we look at the floor maps, like we change and edit and like over and over and over, like countless hours spent on it, because it's like the flow needs to, like, I'm talking about thousands of people flow. You know what I mean? Not just like a little teeny walkway, but like the whole entire show flowing together, spread out over, multiple buildings and stuff. And the first one, we swung for the fences. We went all out. We invested ridiculous amounts of money into it in the beginning because we bought all the furniture and all the displays, and like we own all the equipment and everything, So it was a major investment, and we brought in some amazing investors to help us with that beginning part of it. And it's like Danny and Aaron have done trade shows for 20 years, right? So like they really knew, where like how to make it run perfectly. When I remember when you asked the question, the only thing I can really remember is when I walked into the show for the first time, I was like, whoa, like it took me back, and I was working on it for a year. You know what I mean? So I was shocked. It was fucking stunning. So, yeah. And then, it's if you build it, they will come, right? And we over delivered, actually, which is something we talk about all the time. At the last day of the first show, at the end, oh, thank you so much, Hall of Flowers is closing, like whatever, 5:00 kind of thing on the Wednesday or whatever it was. We just hear like an applause. People are, the booths are applauding, and we're like looking around, like, and there's just like a woo, like, you know what I mean? Like kind of thing. And it gives me chills right now. Like, that is what it's all about, right? Like all I care about personally is, will you come back again? Right? Would they do it again? Like so many events and agencies and consultants, whatever, they like trick people into giving them money, and they whatever, right? They overpromise, underdeliver kind of thing. And it's like, all I care about is, would you do it again? Whether that's a consumer coming in, which is what we're opening to the fans, essentially in September, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, to the buyers that come to the show, to all the brands that come to the show, to the PR and press people, to the investors, like, I just care if they'll want to come back again, right? So we have to make the experience so unbelievable every time. We've like upped it. Even the show in September, we're like adding a whole new kind of component to it again. So, yeah, obviously it's exciting. Yeah, as you can tell.
It's such a difficult balance, right? Because every individual who attends that show, their success marker is likely slightly differently than the others, right? Kellen and I have different interests. We
100%.
attend the show, we look for different things. So having those things for individuals and for companies is so complex and complicated, because you're right. If it doesn't fit for one group, they might decide, hey, like, great show, but it's not worth our money. But to see it kind of go from that first thing to where it is today is an incredible accomplishment, because what you've done is you've delivered on the trust, and you overachieved on what people's expectations were. And it's an incredible feat to accomplish that.
Thank you so much. It is exactly what you said in the beginning of that. Every brand has a different sense of if it was worth it or not, or, whoever else is coming, right? Any exhibitor or any of the retailers or press or whatever. But, the brands that are buying booths, the exhibitors, they all have a different opinion. One or two or five accounts for someone that's new could be priceless. One big chain store could change your life. You know what I mean? The right new manufacturer, the right investor, So I think it's like, I have this like internal doc that like we talked about like behind the scenes stuff. I have this like internal doc that I make when people hit me up and they're like, hey, I got all the stuff at Hall Flowers. Says, how can I do the show? What can I even do? Like how else can I do it? Because I want people to win. So I just help them. And, I talk to some companies and I'm like, well, you're going to have like catalogs, right? And like line sheets and order forms. And they're like, oh shit. Like, oh, fuck. I should have an order form. And I'm like, yeah, like, okay, like let's start at the beginning then. You know what I mean? Because some of these brands just haven't done it because they're just like these entrepreneurs, like how I did business. I didn't go to business school. I started a punk rock record label and I didn't know anything about business at the time. And I just did it because I loved it. We have a lot of that, in the industry. And then of course there's like the corporate people that like have done trade shows in the past and they kind of know how to show up and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it's such a different thing for every brand. Danny, my partner, says something which is really interesting. Again, like I wouldn't even think of this is, we have some brands that are in every door in the market and like, well, we don't really need to come to Hall Flowers because we're in all the shops anyways. And it's like, well, where else could you see 300 of your shops? Where else can the CEO even or CFO or whatever, or the CMO, whoever the C-suite people, where else can they even meet the buyers? Yeah, your reps are in the shops talking to people, but like, you haven't had a one-on-one with this retailer in maybe ever, you know what I mean? So we've had a couple brands that have done that. And, Danny's suggestion was like book, 10 or 15 minute long meetings all day long with the CEO and the top accounts. And then you'd see sales go up, of course, afterwards, because it was like, oh, I learned about this thing and they're going to support me here. It's like it's relationships on both sides, right? So it's not just like sell in, it's like sell through to the consumers and stuff, right? So, and retailers are in a hard spot right now, of course, like in any industry. The brands here in California are trying to figure it out, so it's what better place to do this. I started Hall Flowers because I wanted to be part of it. I needed it because I was working with these companies, I
think that's like the nuance aspect of the trade shows that makes it so difficult. And exactly like you alluded to, like the success for that CEO being able to go there, what he did was he cultivated trust with all those buyers and those relationships really solidified because maybe on the other side, if he didn't do that, maybe he found someone else and they get replaced. But like you were saying, those relationships have to be hardened to understand that, and kind of going through those pieces of the puzzle is so important. So staying on kind of like your little secret sheet, when you take a look at, let's say, some of the booked attendees and booked exhibitors, do you think to yourself, okay, like these group of people are going to really want to work with these people, or these people, we need to find someone else for them? Do you kind of try to match make them in your head and understand if anything's missing?
Yeah, we even have a platform called Engage that's free that we provide, we pay for the exhibitors. And a lot of exhibitors don't even know that this exists, even though we've had it for years. But you have a free account and you can go on and upload products and upload like everything you're selling. And then it's super curated for the buyers, and the buyers can log in and say, I want 1 gram pre-rolls. And it filters it. Here's everybody that has it. You know what I mean? So the people that have really taken advantage of the Engage platform have fucking said it's a game changer for them. It's a matchmaking platform that we have there. And then of course, me on the marketing side all day long, I'm like, here's a cool maybe lifestyle brand or something that wants to be involved in the show. They don't know what to do. So, okay, I'm going to partner them with like a cool weed brand, and then they can maybe do a little capsule collection or whatever, kind of thing.
Is majority of the brands California-based brands, or are there brands from kind of other states looking to get into the California market? And if they are, how do they kind of handle sampling of products and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so they know everyone's licensed that's at the show in California. Of course, like there's accessory companies and, like I said, like apparel companies that do it, that are like, that will be doing it this coming show, like we haven't had apparel up until now, but it's a licensed show. Everyone has to submit their licenses. It's like, that's another thing that I could never do, is all the paperwork that goes behind this show that Danny does is fucking crazy. This is why people don't do these shows, honestly. Like, there's why people don't do these shows, or there's some other people that do like other, cannabis events around and stuff, but they're not like licensed legal events. You know what I mean? They're just like they're just like essentially doing parties, because the amount of work that goes into this stuff and the tracking and with it's like fucking so nuts. Like the amount of stuff that has to happen, like we have like whole lawyer teams just helping us make sure the compliance. And it's like, I've done events legitimately I did my first like big festival event. I'm not even exaggerating. New Bedford, Massachusetts, 1993, 30 years ago. And my mom dropped me off at the venue, and there was 3,000 kids at the punk festival we put together, me and my friend Kendra. So I've been doing events before that for a year. My first big festival was 3,000 kids when I was like 15 or 16 or whatever that I produced. So I've been doing events literally like thousands. I booked thousands of events myself. And I was a booking agent for artists and bands. So I booked tours around the country, like thousands of shows around the country I booked. And this is by far the hardest event I've ever been a part of to pull off.
I can only imagine the paperwork involved, and it's probably why so many others choose the other route. But just wanted to go back to certain brands that attend. What I'm hearing is all New Yorkers' favorite brands attend. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we have, there's the best brands in cannabis. This show we have coming up, we have CBX, we have, Backpack Boys, we have Doja, we have like so many amazing brands. I'm like, I don't want to forget anybody. I don't want anyone to be mad, Wonder Bread, Seven Leaves. Like, I mean, there's 150 brands. Like we put out a flyer, a few weeks ago with like the lineup on it. And it was just like the best, the most important brands in the industry, So there's a couple that we don't have confirmed yet that I'm fucking demon dialing and punishing every day, like just trying to get them to come to the show, And I won't name them because I don't want them. But I'm like, there's two more that I'm like, if we can get these two more brands, then I'll stop. We'll be good for them,
Are there brands that you've experienced or seen just kind of like absolutely explode? And if in the second question, are there other brands that you right now are like, this time next year, this brand is probably going to explode? Have you had those experiences? And have you had that feeling?
Yeah, of course. I have a dear friend that I've known forever named Jamie Feaster. He was one of the founders of Ease and the delivery platform. And he went out to consult for a bunch of companies. And now he runs a company called Country Cannabis that I helped spin up. And we walk around the show together, Jamie and I, and we like give our own like best booth award. We don't literally do this, but we walk around to the brands and we're like, dude, or female, male, whatever. But like, we're like, if you just fucking keep going, like, because I don't know if you've ever read Where Good Ideas Come From, Michael Johansson, amazing book. Everyone should read it. But it's essentially what he's saying is that like hunches come together to form like real opinions, So like a lot of these brands just have hunches, So when Jamie and I are the same way. If Jamie and I both like something, it's fucking good. That's what we've decided at this point. So when we walk around, we're like, keep going. Your fucking booth's sick. This idea is great. You know what I mean? And we've seen people absolutely take off like crazy, And then what was the second part of it? People that did well. And what was the other one?
Have you had a feeling where you saw a brand, let's say last year, or do you have one like a feeling this year of like a brand that you've been watching from afar and you're like, hey, like my assumption is that this brand in 12 months from now will go from, let's say, commonplace or kind of hidden to absolutely the most popular?
Yeah. But it's more on like, I'd say to answer your question very specifically, I find that more when I visit the retailers. I think it's because when I go to the retailers, I'm like, what's selling, and I look at the, the sales data and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But like, it's really more like what's on the street, what are the kids talking about kind of thing, is where I get that feeling. But the show is like, because the show, they would need to show up maybe 2 or 3 times and then you'd see the progression of them. And, I get to tell it because it's just so far apart, the time frame of it. But if you go into 40 shops and you're seeing this new brand on all of them, and you ask the people the bartenders what's selling, and they're like, blah, 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 this one, then it's like, okay, this is, like it's, it's happening like on the street level. It's again, I did music forever. Like, how do you find the new band? You go to the shows and see what the kids like. And then, you try to sign the band that the kids are singing along to,
Well, that's exactly why I asked. I didn't know like those similarities and those feelings have to probably be really innate in you. Like when you see something,
It's the entire reason I started Green Street with my partner, Josh, is I did the first records from Jimmy Eat World and At the Drive-In and The Hives and, these really cool bands. I worked with, dozens of amazing bands, The Bronx, all these cool bands. And the same exact feeling I got from the singers and like the drummers and guitar players or whatever of those bands that were, I did Jimmy Eat World. We were doing tiny shows, 50 people would come. You know what I mean? So like I saw it from 0 to number 1, right? But the same feeling I got from those, musicians is the feeling I got from like the men and women that were the entrepreneurs in cannabis. So it's like, oh my God, when I'd meet with, Brandine or whatever from Masterminded, and I'd be like, she's like fucking, Jimmy Eat World, dude. And I could just see like that comparison. And I saw my music go from zero to like mainstream. I didn't realize it was going to become so big. So that's the only reason I did Green Street, is that I got the exact same feeling from the men and women that were doing both of those things. I talk about it all the time. I was like, that's the reason. So my hunch is that cannabis will go mainstream and it won't be illegal forever. Again, I did skateboarding. Something was illegal. Now it's in the Olympics, so that will change and evolve. And I love weed. I smoked weed every day for, decades before I started the company, and then I started working with a couple weed brands via the G-Pen guys. And, I'd meet Task from Highly Educated, or, Jeff from Nameless, or Aaron from DNA Genetics, or any of these people. And you'd be like, fuck, like, wow, like this is it, And then I have a mentor in a guy named Shep Gordon, Supermensch. I don't know if you know Shep, but unbelievable, insane mentor. And, he really explained to us that his hunch was that the cultivators and like the entrepreneurs and the innovators in cannabis, were like the DNA Genetics of the world and those kind of people, they would become the faces of the industry. Right now it was, more like celebrity or whatever, people that weren't scared to put their face on stuff. But, his hunch was that, like the celebrity chefs would be similar to the entrepreneurs in cannabis, and that's really resonated a lot. So I've always approached these, even though they're small company owners, I think, dude, I know I'm babbling, but I think the biggest companies haven't been started yet. Okay. And I think that an intern today in cannabis could be CEO of like a major company in 2 or 3 years from now. That's how quick it's going to go. I saw it in fashion a little bit. I saw it in skateboarding a little bit, but that's built on decades of industry. This is brand new.
Based on the hunch, the experience, the relationships, and understanding kind of the dynamic of how the game is played.
Yeah, and it's never been done before. There's no playbook for this. We're literally creating the industry right now. You know what I mean? So it's not like someone has 50 years of experience that can come in and say, you're wrong, kid. You know what I mean? So some woman that's interning at a shop right now could learn. I mean, my, friend Dom that founded Lowell, which is a gigantic brand, he was fucking working in a dispensary.
I think there's another famous guy in cannabis that started working as checking IDs at a dispensary, right? Burner, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly right.
Like that's literally how he worked his way up too. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and he forged it from further out. Now it's like there's like publicly traded companies and all this stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, anyway.
Why do you think like a lot of the celebrity brands that were like the early kind of movers, they put their face on it, right? Like what do you think was kind of a common theme of why they weren't as successful as everyone thought they were going to be?
Yeah, I love it. I love that question because I did a lot of those deals. I've done tons of celebrity deals. And I'd say the main reason is that the brands don't know how to use them yet. Especially back then. We would do deals and we did some of the best ones, I would say. There's been so many other, insanely cheesy ones, but the brands thought that for the most part that the celebrity is going to post once and then it's going to be a huge company. You know what I mean? And it's not about that. Like really, like what we've explained from the beginning is that it's like you have access to this crowd now. Unless you show up and pay more, like we use the Nike example. My partner Josh would always say, like, listen, when Nike signs LeBron, that's not their investment. It's not just here we're giving LeBron money. Then they hire 6 people that are full-time on LeBron. They also sponsor the jersey of every other player that he plays on. They send boxes of shoes to everybody that he's in friends with. They buy the commercial when it cuts to the fucking thing during the game of him dunking on the thing. You know what I mean? So it's not just like the celebrity, it's the marketing that goes with it. You know what I mean? That's just the tip of the iceberg. So like a lot of the people would sign an artist and, oh my God, we're spending, whatever, $10,000, $50,000, $1 million, whatever. And that was their budget for the marketing. Done. We give it to one person. So they didn't have the ability to like do any of the other stuff, So I would say that's the big problem, But celebrities have been selling stuff for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? It's like Like
So-
Charlie Chaplin shows, like, it's not like a new thing. You know what I mean? So, but, we talk about this all the time too. And I'm sure you have your version of this. Like, the people don't want to, talking about like I worked with tons of rappers, right? So like, they don't want to like wear the t-shirt with the rapper's face on it. They want to like wear the clothes that she or he is wearing in the video. You know what I mean? They want to drive the car they're driving. You know what I mean? You're right. You know what I mean? So they want to just smoke the weed that they're smoking. They don't want to smoke because like, what is, as Shep Gordon would say, like, what does this guy know about growing weed? Why would I, what? You know what I mean?
I smoke Martha Stewart's weed if she's not smoking her own weed, right?
Yeah. It's like having like a race car driver make spaghetti or something. And you're like, what? Like, what do you know about spaghetti? And it's like, oh, it's like, so, and then, but this is the problem. The brands are so stuck with how limited we are. We can't buy it. We can barely even have an account. I talked to my friend Adam Mill today. He told me that he has had 29 Instagram accounts shut down so far. You know what I mean? So when you can't even have an account, you can't have a YouTube, never mind buy ads in any of those places. All you can really buy is shit that people don't want to buy, advertising wise, people that don't want to buy anymore. You can buy billboards and shit that no one wants, right? So like when a celebrity comes to you and they have 50,000 followers or 100,000 followers and whatever, and they're not going to shut down that person's account probably, it's like almost like what else can you do? You know what I mean? So you can't really blame the brands because you have no other fucking option really. You know what I mean? We've approached the celebrities from the beginning like they were our rocket fuel to get going because, they wouldn't shut down, whoever's account because they have 4 million followers or 20 million followers and that kind of stuff, So, but you can't just like look at Ralph Lauren or Calvin Klein. They still don't have Mark Wahlberg as the model 50 years later. They have like the new one every year. You know what I mean? So it's not you know what I mean? So that's the other problem is, well, I'll tell you what. Let's go the other way. Let's talk about success. G-Pen. We did the G-Pen stuff, right? Chris, who's a fucking super G that runs the brand, and Anthony, these guys are incredible. But, they signed Snoop Dogg, right? We then worked with Josh, my partner, worked with Snoop's team and Conan O'Brien's team. It took weeks of like clarification, and at the end of it, Snoop Dogg gifts Conan O'Brien the G-Pen on air. You know what I mean? And this was a big moment back then. And Conan O'Brien's like, oh, what is this for lavender? He like makes a joke about it. You know what I mean? And the e-com the next day fucking went like psycho. You know what I mean? And then we did tons of stuff with Snoop Dogg and it was incredible relationship, And then we added a bunch of more celebrities along the way and we did these, but we balanced it, but Chris took advantage of it. Like Chris was he knew that you can't just sign Snoop Dogg. Snoop posts once a month in the contract and the intern puts it up or whatever. It's fine. And he has an unbelievable reach. Snoop's incredible, like 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. But it can't just be that. You got to then go use you know what I mean? Like Nike's not just, their strategy isn't LeBron's going to post about our shoes today. Like LeBron doesn't take his shoe off and it's like, buy Nike. You know what I mean? He'll never do that. You know what I mean? So anyway.
I think that's so important, right? Like you laid out like the strategy isn't just like a single shot, right? And you're talking about two things that I want to really highlight. The rocket fuel, which I think is so important, and opening up the access, right? Paying that celebrity just opens up the access. And it's really kind of what you lay out after, which I think sometimes is forgotten from a strategic sense with marketing, is how important it is like to have the piece of the puzzle come together. So an event like you talked about with Snoop and Conan O'Brien is like thoughtful, and it's kind of in context where people don't really know what's happening. And then boom, it delivers on it, probably gets picked up between all the mainstream media and everyone loves it.
Yep. Yeah. My partner Josh would always say does say if we have a celebrity thing that we do, because we still work with a bunch of them, he'll go to an event for like 7 hours just to work for like 12 minutes. He'll sit there for 3 hours waiting, make sure the security, all the stuff good. Okay. That the celebrity's there. Okay. Now there's like the brand owner coming in or whatever. And it's like, come in, back, meet and greet, do the thing, blah, 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 leave. But it was like hours and hours and hours and hours of like prepping just to make sure this like 10-minute little conversation was like, perfect, So, it's hard, and then the rocket fuel, like it's any other brand. You shouldn't tie any brand to one person, regardless of who it is. Like, why would you ever do that? Unless it's owned by someone, you know what I mean? Like personally, but why would you, you got to be Calvin Klein about it. You should do the next stuff. But, that's it. You'll see this again. there's a big bifurcation happening, right? Like the corporates are going corporate, the craft is going craft, and you'll see like people come out on both sides of it, and then it's also the authenticity. Like, 710 Brad did that Jaleel White purple Urkel thing, you know what I mean? And like, how could any other brand get away with that? Like, so like, so I think it's like some brands have permission kind of, as my partner Gary would say, to do like other stuff, to get away with different things, you know what I mean? So yeah, so, we'll see.
So let's talk about the September event that's coming up.
Sure.
Tell us anything new that's happening, and then take us through kind of like what the headline is and kind of what the expectations are.
Okay, we'll start headline first. Headline is, weed is the headliner. Okay, that's what we're doing here. Like, we're trying to sell as much weed as we possibly humanly can legally to super fans. That's really the goal of this. So we've had the trade show for 6 years. It's a monster. It crushes. We have this 2 days always. Day one has always been this sought after, crazy, special day that is no different than day two, really. More limited access. Everything's always the same both days. But the industry just worships day one. Everyone wants to come to day one. Day two is like, not a leftover, but it's just like, for some reason, I don't understand at all. People want to come to day one. So we talked to a lot of the brands and we said, okay, like, we want to always evolve the show. We're building it for you, to come and exhibit. So what are you guys thinking? What are you girls thinking? And we have feedback that if we can kind of connect as consumers, that there's some interest there, so we start exploring that essentially. Danny starts exploring the consumer side of it. And we hate the word consumer, right? So I call it fans, like the fan side of it, sell to fans, because I did super fan shit my whole life. That's all I know. And, so the corporate industry calls these people prosumers. If you go to like the electronic show, it's like a prosumer, right? Kind of thing. So anyway, that's what our deck says. And the idea is like that you have your amazing day one show, B2B, all the retailers are there, place your orders, do your shit, make your money. And then you could probably make a bunch of cash the next day. So as long as you're licensed and you can bring in a retail partner, which we're helping facilitate so much of this, you can sell weed directly from your booth to your fans, and then you'll get the direct ROI there. And so that's like the big change is like, and we didn't purposely book like a big major music talent headliner because we don't want people to come to a concert. We want them to come buy weed. Right. That's what we want to do. So, and then we know that you need to have music, and because people just want to smoke weed with their friends at the events. Right. So of course we'll have amazing music. We're working on a lineup. We're working on some amazing hosts and amazing little special guests. And we'll do a little teeny, music-y thing here and there. We'll have a bunch of awesome DJs, but it's more like build the weed stuff, focus on the brands, and then we'll build out everything kind of around that accompanies the food, the art, the music, the entertainment, the experiences, kind of that all goes around that, So that's what we're doing. And day one is normal and day two is fucking going nuts, dude. We have carnival rides. We have games that we are making custom with a company called Exploding Kittens, which we don't know. It's the number one performing Kickstarter of all time. They sold 50 million copies of this game. And they have a Netflix show. That trailer just came out. So we're building custom games with them. So again, it's like we could rent a carnival game from down the street. We can't build a fucking carnival ride. I'm not going to build a ride. That's dangerous, right? I can't build a Ferris wheel myself. But we can certainly build like a new version of a ring toss or a balloon thing or whatever, So we're working with like Exploding Kittens on some games. We're working with a company called Joking Hazard. They have a spinoff called Toking Hazard, which is another huge gaming company. My buddy John is helping me with some of this stuff. He speaks this language more than I do. So he's like really, introduced me to like that world in general over the past few years. He's been introducing me to that kind of the tabletop world, as they call it, which is gigantic and amazing. And we all love it playing games anyways. We partnered with Sonoma Hills Farms. This is a guy named Aaron who is at the French Laundry, which is the number one restaurant in America. They just celebrated their 30-year anniversary this week. And they're doing like the sickest fine dining experience at the show. It's not going to be over the top, like French Laundry is. It's not a tasting menu. We're doing like a buffet dinner thing. But it's a Michelin star chef coming in. It's 2 James Beard winners coming in. It's like 10 people from all the TV shows coming in. and like the hottest chef from Portland's coming down, the hottest chef from New Orleans is coming out. So like food is going to be, we're going to have food trucks and all that stuff too. But if you want to like book a fucking time and sit and not sit in a line forever and all that kind of shit, you know, you can book a reservation and come with your team or your friends or a date or whatever you want to do. So very excited about the food, entertainment, rides. We have unbelievable speakers, guys. So back to the super fans, right? So if you're like an Alien Labs fan or a Connected fan or a CBX fan, we have the guys that run those companies and Cam and Anna from Cam coming, like these amazing cultivators all coming to speak, you know? So like you get to meet the people that grow your favorite strains. Normally I do more like our partner Gary Vaynerchuk spoke. I've done, my chef Gordon spoke. Sometimes I have a lot of like industry, outside of the industry people speak, you know, Jesse from Sunday or Lily Hayes, the Instagram phenomenon. But this time it's for the weed people, right? So I want like the home growers and the hobbyists and the prosumers and the super fans and whatever you want to call them. I want them to be excited about who's speaking. So I have amazing cultivators confirmed to speak. We also have Task from Highly Educated coming out. He invented 710 yesterday, like legitimately. If you're like, what is Rama talking about? Task, Rock, ROK, TASK, ROK, 710, question mark, what? Yes, the guy that fucking invented 710 is coming to the show to speak, okay? He invented the carb cap. He basically popularized the nail. He made the first e-nail ever. He's bringing the first e-nail ever to the show. It's like artifacts and shit, you know? It's like fucking, you know, Temple of Doom stuff, all right? So we're bringing a lot of that out. So the speakers I'm very excited about. We have, you know, a bunch of other great people, you know, confirmed to speak. Working on some DJs for like the music, you know, to give the vibe going. Working on a host. Working on some other kind of cool moments. I'd like to break a world record or two, or at least attempt. You know, it's been my childhood dream. And yeah, just making it super fun, right? It needs to be fun. It's been trade show B2B forever, and now it's like direct to fan or whatever you want to call it. So that has to be fun. It's, you know, it can't just be like, you know, it'd be slightly educational, but hopefully, you know, a lot of entertainment too.
Just make sure that I articulate it back, just make sure we're on the same page here. So the first day, brands can meet up and sell with other retailers and kind of develop those relationships a little further. And if that wasn't enough value for the market, you've added a secondary one where the next day, those same people can sell their products and make a positive return on their investment, right? If they sell their product, they make back. And then also fans get to come experience, meet all the same people at the same time. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah. And we're not trying to do flea market, right? We don't want the brands to sell the stuff at a discount, right? We want them to sell it at a full price or you know, like they shouldn't discount their stuff. So, you know, in theory, if they can sell through product, they'll make their cash back that day plus their order. So, you know, win-win, right? You know, double down, which is incredible. And then absolutely priceless, in my opinion. Where else can you talk to thousands of consumers? Really, nowhere. Like, where can you really talk to, like, and again, there's events that happen. Some of these events happen like this, but, you know, like to have 5,000 kids come, you're a new vape company, so you're not going to have super fans yet. You're not going to sell maybe a lot of product, right? So, but where else can you find 1,000 people that would sample your pen, or you could talk to, well, what do you like in it? What do you think of the packaging? All this like direct feedback, you know, like we think it's priceless, the feedback from the consumer, you know, because the brands don't get to interact with the consumer that much. You know what I mean? Like they, on the retail level, it's the only place you can really buy it. They're not there. They do PADs and stuff, but not like as a team. We have a guy that works with us. And again, my partner, Aaron, started Complex Con, and they were giving us some example of at Complex Con, one of the big brands there, I guess I can tell it to it as Levi's apparently, was there, and they had a booth, you know, and for the consumer, and they had women's jeans. Okay. And they were trying to sell these women's jeans, but like dudes were like loving the jeans because they were this cool pattern. And they literally changed the plan of the jeans, and they made the jeans for men instead of for women. Right. And that's Levi's. So it's a bigger, more organized company than most of the cannabis fans, I would imagine. But like, you know, that's the type of stuff that we're hoping happens. We're hoping that you really like have this big aha moment, you know, and then think of who you can meet there. Everybody is at that show. Everybody comes to All Flowers. You guys, if you're not coming out, please, you should come out. We'll take care of you, of course. But like, it's the who's who of the who of it's the owners and the decision makers, and everyone's there, you know? So
is there anything different this year than previous years? I know you mentioned apparel potentially. Is that
for exhibitors? Yeah. So since it's consumer based, we have, Market coming, we have Carrots coming, we have, I think Rip and Dip is confirmed. We have Talking Terps, so we have like some of the lifestyle-y kind of brands coming out, and they're making exclusive stuff with us and for us and things like that. So, very much like Complex Con style, and what else are we trying to? Yeah, then I'm bringing in some makers. So I like love art and making, building and hands and whatever, So I'm having like 10 of like these unbelievable like makers come. So like I have this sick leather woman and I have this crazy engraving guy that does like live engraving on shit. It's like just stuff that's like visually would be cool to do. And then some interactive stuff. Like I'm trying to find like someone that you could like DIY bracelets and like you pick your hat and make like a cool iron on your hat thing, that kind of shit, so people can kind of like do crafty stuff, or you could just watch some dude engrave a piece of metal for 20 minutes and zone out or whatever, right? So yeah, some of that stuff will be cool.
If you need someone to source C glass for these DIY bracelets, I might know someone to call.
Dude, brought it back. You have no idea. I'm looking over here because my sea glass collection, my real passion, I walk out every morning here on the beach and I collect sea glass. And I haven't put it away yet. It's still on my table right over here. It usually goes back over here in this little jar. You know what I mean? And I just see it over here and it just makes me so happy. So, yeah, we'll see though. Pun intended, we'll see. But yeah, I'm not enough. I can commit to that yet. Commit to the jewelry thing. But having a live jewelry maker would be epic. And we want to have stuff for people to do while they're there. Right. And like, we don't want it just to be like the stoner friend or like, whatever, like we want them to be able to bring their family or their loved ones or their friend. We want 3 people to come together and like what the girl is like the super stoner and her 2 buddies are like just maybe take an edible a little bit, but so we don't want to be like dumb weed event, right? We want to give something for everybody, but we want to make sure weed is like the headliner. You know what I mean? So
it sounds important. Like Disney World.
Hopefully, we're making a map. So yeah, hopefully, Yeah.
I mean, I saw the list of things that are being there, and I was like, "This is incredible. This is not just like a trade show event. This is like an experience."
No, it's a full. We were just finally using the word festival like a week as of the past week. We weren't even using that because experience is for sure like a word I would like better. But it truly is. It's becoming like a true. We're calling it like a market and festival. People, we want you to buy shit. You know what I mean? Farmers market kind of during the day again, not flea market. Just the best shit, quality stuff, no discounty stuff, hopefully. And we're hoping that all the brands so far have said they're going to make exclusive strains and, drop exclusive products and all that kind of stuff. So, that's what we want to be the feature. But you go to the farmer's market for 20 minutes or whatever, and then you bounce. We want to do stuff that keeps you there all day and you can hang out for a few hours with your friends and have lunch or dinner or whatever it may be, go on some rides or whatever, So.
I love it. To slightly switch gears, let's do a quick rapid fire.
Yeah.
True or false, we will eventually have a Hall of Flowers in New York.
I can't say true or false. I will say my partner did insanely big trade shows in New York City for years. I'll just say that.
Dream smoking session, 3 people, dead or alive.
Oh, fuck. That's a crazy one. Okay. Picasso, Bill Murray. Who else do I worship? Larry Bird.
I know you're a big idea guy. Can you throw out a few concepts that you're thinking about that no one is executing on?
Cannabis or non-cannabis?
Either. First ones come to mind.
There's a big opportunity for a media company in cannabis, like a real one. High Times, obviously not a real one anymore, or never hasn't been for years, but you get me. I would say, besides John Capetta, he's the only good thing over there maybe. And I would say, so media, I mean, the home delivery side of it seems like it could be something that really gets figured out soon. Batch is doing an incredible job. I worship them. That's interesting. So maybe they figure that out. I don't know. I would say I also love this art side of stuff. So I think about that a lot. And I had a gallery for years and worked with artists for years, managed artists, all that kind of stuff. And I think the art world is changing for the first time in 100 years. And it's such a different planet now and it never has changed before, really. It's always been kind of this institution. And now it's like everyone's kind of confused, like technology crossing over the art world is just like flipping stuff out of whack a little bit. So I think there's some interesting ideas there as well with how to make like the new art offering management gallery kind of world. So that's also something that I'm like, I dream about at night, you know?
If you could put anything on a billboard, metaphorically speaking, to get a message to billions of people, could be an image, a quote, a word, or something that inspired you. What is the first thing that comes to mind?
I'm like a marketing like person. So if you say billboard, I need like a whiteboard sesh for at least a few hours to come up with the answer on that. You know, all these questions I take too seriously. That's why it's hard for me to answer them. But, you know, I take myself too seriously basically on this answering them. But yeah, other message. No, maybe just a big smiley face besides unsubscribe, which is kind of the opposites, but okay.
What question do you wish more people asked you?
Do you want a sandwich? Maybe something like that.
You're sick.
You know, I don't know. Something gluttonous maybe or something like that. You know, I was going to not answer it properly, but yeah.
There's no wrong answer. All right, prediction time. Rama, what specific trend do you predict will dominate the cannabis industry over the next 5 to 8 years?
I don't know. I don't know. I would say like, I'm not going to answer your question, but I'll kind of go sideways on it with you. Like I would say, I think the most important conversation in cannabis is social equity, but I would never want to call it a trend because that would be like disgraceful, you know? But I would say like, hopefully this being figured out more because it's the most important. I think social justice is incredibly important. It looks like we're getting, you know, a lot of steps figured out there. But then what do we do after that? You know, so I'd say like the social equity side of it is super important. And then trend, I wish I can give you a trend. I'm like a prediction fucking maniac. I love the predictions. Okay. My one thing I'd say is that technology coming into the industry is going to be nuts in a good way and bad way. It's just going to be like, everyone's going to, that's the only kind of final frontier maybe is the tech side, how tech's going to apply to this. So, and no one's really been, there's some great products out there, of course, but like there's still not like clear winners in a lot of these categories, you know? So
love it. Kellen, your thoughts?
I think one of the common trends will be the conversation about when it'll be federally legal for the next 8 years again.
Sure.
But as far as like products, I think that you're going to see a huge trend for other form factors trying to break into mainstream, like consumers, if you will, right? You see people have been talking about beverages,
yeah, I'm gonna say
other kind of form factors for mass consumption, right? Because consumers have decided that lighting things on fire and inhaling them isn't the best way to enjoy your favorite product, right? So I think that'll be the most dominant trend, most likely, is those two topics. What do you think, though, Brian?
I think experiences. I think for too long, people have assumed cannabis is done behind the scenes or at comfort in our home. And I think exactly what you're putting together, Rama, is what is necessary to kind of remove the stigma and let people know that cannabis can be many different things. It can be an altering experience. It can be a positive one in so many different ways. And it can enhance just your day-to-day life in so many small ways. And I think experiences will be kind of a game changer and expand it to where it's more commonplace to be associated with events.
Yeah, I will absolutely agree with both of you. I'm bullish on beverage, as I always say. I think it's going to be gigantic. Obviously, it's how we're so used to consuming. At the same time, alcohol, cigarettes, people aren't interested in that as much anymore. So those companies need to keep making their money. So, you know, they will switch over to beverage. So I completely agree, absolutely, with what you said. And then experience, yeah, that is across the board, right? We're seeing like all the big festivals and events kind of, you know, not do as well, or most of them, you know, we're seeing, I mean, tours are being canceled left and right, you know, these artists. And, but we're seeing experiences overall and what like the new fans want, the younger demos, all they want is experience. That's all they care about, that they care about so much more. So I think that's naturally like the trend in all of branding and marketing and this kind of stuff. And it's like more micro niche stuff, you know, that you're going to see really take off. So, yeah.
Perfect. And I think, Rama, for our listeners, they want to get in touch. They want to attend Hall of Flowers. Where can they find you?
Yeah. So hallflowers.com, just spelled normal, Hall of Flowers. There's like tickets on there and stuff, super affordable right now. We wanted people to have their money to buy weed with, basically. And so you can do that. And then, you know, for me, whatever, Instagram, on my website, I have ramamayo.com. And I love jamming on shit. And then my Instagram is my full name, which is, I have two middle names, Thomas and David. So it's Rama Thomas David Mayo. I keep DMing the guy that has @Rama. I cannot hear back from him. I'd love to just switch this out, make it easy. I don't know what he wants or whatever, but apparently not money, so
Maybe weed.
Could be weed. I think he's Canadian. I'm not sure. And he posts great content, so I get it, but maybe he doesn't look at his DMs, but if someone can get me at Rama, that would be great. And then, Green Street is at Green Street, just spelt normal, all full out, which is the company we started a long time ago, which is where we started Hall of Flowers from and a bunch of the other kind of projects we're doing.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time. This was a lot of fun.
Fuck yeah. Thank you guys.